Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something straight from the heart. As we grow older, life starts to teach us lessons we wish we'd learned sooner. Time becomes more precious, energy becomes more valuable, and peace becomes the most expensive currency you'll ever own. And if you want to protect that peace, there are 5 kinds of people you must avoid in old age. First, the negative soul. You know the type. Every time you speak, they've got a reason why it won't work. Every time you dream, they've got a reason to crush it. These people don't just rain on your parade, they build the storm clouds. In your later years, you cannot afford that. Surround yourself with people who lift you up, not drag you down. Second, the user. The one who only comes around when they need something. Not when you're sick, not when you're tired, not when you're struggling. No, they only knock on your door when they're hungry, when they're broke, when they need your shoulder. But when it's your turn to need silence, empty phone, cold air, avoid them, because they will drain you until there's nothing left. Third, the gossip. Old age is not the time to waste your breath on rumors, lies, and small talk. Your voice should be used to speak blessings, wisdom, and truth. The gossip will trap you in circles that go nowhere, keeping your mind locked in nonsense. Let them talk about others. You don't need to sit at that table. Fourth, the complainer. These people see life as one big burden. Always moaning, always bitter, always focusing on what's missing instead of what's still here. If you're not careful, their complaints will poison your spirit. And when you're older, joy isn't optional, it's survival. Protect your joy, because without it, the years feel longer, heavier, colder. And finally, the dream killer. In old age, some folks will try to convince you that it's too late to travel, too late to learn, too late to love, too late to live. Don't you dare let them put their limits on your life. If your heart is still beating, it's never too late. Avoid those who say you can't, and walk with those who say you still can. My friends, the truth is simple. Old age is not about counting the years. It's about making the years count. You don't owe anyone your peace, your joy, or your time. Protect your circle, guard your energy, and walk into every day with strength, faith, and purpose. Because the older you get, the less you need people who drain you, and the more you need people who remind you what living really means. Negative people are some of the most dangerous influences you can allow into your life, especially as you grow older. They carry a constant storm cloud with them, and if you're not careful, they will make you believe that the rain is permanent. Every time you share an idea, they tell you why it won't work. Every time you try to see the good in something, they remind you of everything that could go wrong. Their words sound small, but they carry heavy weight, because negativity has a way of creeping into your spirit and dimming your light without you even realizing it. In your younger years, you might have tolerated it, thinking it was just part of life, or even tried to prove them wrong. But in old age, the cost of carrying negativity becomes too high, and the luxury of wasted energy is something you cannot afford. These people often wear masks. Some of them may come disguised as concerned friends, always warning you not to get your hopes up. They claim they are just being realistic, but reality to them is always painted in the darkest colors. Others may be family members, so close that their voices carry even more power in your mind. It is not always easy to spot how deeply their negativity influences you, because it seeps in slowly, making you question yourself, making you shrink your dreams, and sometimes even making you feel guilty for wanting more. With age, you begin to realize that your mind is your sanctuary, and who you allow inside that sanctuary will determine the peace or chaos of your later years. Negative people rarely take responsibility for their outlook. They see their pessimism as truth, as if they are doing you a favor by keeping your feet on the ground. But their version of grounding is nothing more than clipping your wings. Life is already filled with enough challenges, losses, and uncertainties. You do not need an extra voice constantly telling you it can't be done, that you're too old, that you should stop trying. What you need is encouragement, laughter, and hope. Negative people rob you of these essentials, and if you let them linger, you may find yourself carrying their burdens in addition to your own. The dangerous part about surrounding yourself with negativity is that it becomes a habit. When you constantly hear no, you begin to internalize it. When you constantly hear why bother, you start to question whether trying is even worth it. This is how dreams fade, not always through failure, but often through the constant whisper of discouragement. That is why removing negative people is not just about protecting your mood. It is about preserving your spirit and ensuring that the years you have left are lived fully, freely, and joyfully. When you are older, every day matters more. You don't need people who drain you, who weigh down your conversations, who darken your perspective. You need light, you need positivity, you need people who make you feel alive, rather than people who make you feel small. Choosing to avoid negativity is not selfish. It is survival, and it is the foundation for living the last chapters of your life with strength and dignity. Users are some of the most exhausting people you can keep around, and in old age, their presence becomes even more harmful. These are the individuals who only remember your number when they are in trouble, who only knock on your door when they need a favor, and who only show up when their world is falling apart. They do not come to celebrate with you, they do not check in just to see how you're doing, and they do not stand by your side when you are weak. Their loyalty is conditional, their love is transactional, and their friendship is nothing more than a mask they wear to keep access to your generosity. As you grow older, you start to recognize patterns more clearly. You begin to notice who was truly there for you during your hardest times and who disappeared the moment you had nothing to offer. Users have a way of making you feel needed, but not valued. They drain your resources, your time, your money, your energy, without ever giving back. And the older you become, the more damaging this cycle becomes, because you no longer have the same strength to pour endlessly into one-sided relationships. Every ounce of energy you give away should be going toward people and activities that nourish your soul, not strip it bare. The tricky thing about users is that they can often disguise themselves as people who care. They may speak sweetly, they may call you family, they may claim you're the only one they can rely on. But when you look closely, you'll realize their pattern is predictable. Their calls or visits are usually followed by a request. Their conversations circle back to their needs. And when you finally say no, their disappointment or anger reveals the truth. They weren't there for you, they were there for what you could give them. In old age, it becomes even more important to guard yourself against these people. Your peace is fragile, your health is precious, and your time is limited. A user will consume all three without a second thought. They will take your money and never pay it back. They will ask for your time without respecting your rest. And they will lean on you for emotional support without ever asking how you're feeling. At the end of it all, you'll be left drained, wondering why you feel so empty after giving so much. Avoiding users doesn't mean you become cold or uncaring. It means you set boundaries to protect yourself from exploitation. True relationships are built on reciprocity, where love, care, and support flow both ways. If someone is only present when they need something, then their presence is not love, it is convenience. And convenience has no place in the later years of life, when every moment should be shared with people who truly care about your well-being. By choosing to avoid users, you create space for genuine relationships to grow. Relationships that honor your presence instead of exploiting it. Gossipers may seem harmless at first, just people filling the silence with chatter, but in truth, they are thieves of time, peace, and dignity. As you grow older, the value of your words and the quality of your conversations become far more important than they once were. You no longer have the luxury of wasting hours listening to rumors about neighbors, friends, or family. Every moment is too precious to be spent on conversations that carry no weight and offer no growth. Gossip does not feed your soul, it poisons it. It pulls your mind into circles of pettiness, jealousy, and speculation, leaving you empty and restless instead of fulfilled and at peace. One of the greatest dangers of surrounding yourself with gossipers is that they drag you into their web. Even if you sit quietly, their words enter your ears and begin to shape your thoughts. Before long, you may find yourself thinking critically of others, repeating their words, or even doubting people you once trusted. Gossip destroys bonds, it tears families apart, it creates division in communities. And for what? For the temporary thrill of talking about someone else's life instead of focusing on your own. In old age, you cannot afford such distractions. Your heart and mind should be focused on things that matter: wisdom, gratitude, faith, health, and meaningful connection. Gossipers also waste emotional energy. Instead of lifting you with encouragement or inspiring you with ideas, they burden you with stories that serve no purpose. They keep your attention trapped in the lives of others, leaving you little room to focus on your own joy. Listening to gossip is like carrying someone else's baggage when your own load is already heavy enough. The older you get, the more essential it becomes to travel light, and gossip adds unnecessary weight to your spirit. Another problem with gossipers is that if they talk about others with you, they will talk about you with others. Trust cannot exist in the company of someone who uses words carelessly. You may think you are safe because of your bond with them, but eventually your name will end up in their stories too. This cycle of mistrust can leave you isolated, wondering who truly respects you and who simply tolerates you until you are not around. Old age should be a season of deep trust and genuine companionship, not one of suspicion and betrayal fueled by careless conversations. Avoiding gossipers doesn't mean you stop socializing, it means you choose meaningful company. Seek out people who talk about ideas, about memories worth cherishing, about lessons worth passing down. Spend time with those who make you laugh, who encourage you to dream, who remind you of what is good and beautiful in the world. Let your words in your later years carry weight, healing, and inspiration, not idle chatter. Protecting yourself from gossipers is protecting your peace, your dignity, and the legacy of wisdom you leave behind. Complainers carry with them a heavy cloud that can suffocate even the brightest room, and when you are older, that weight becomes unbearable to carry. These are the people who find something wrong in everything, no matter how small or insignificant. Give them a sunny day and they will talk about how hot it is. Give them a cool breeze and they will remind you of the storm it might bring. Life through their eyes is always lacking, always disappointing, always unfair. Spending time with such people is like sitting in a room where the windows are closed and the air is stale. You leave feeling drained, even if you walked in feeling fine. As the years pass, your ability to filter what enters your heart and mind becomes more important than ever. Complaining may sound like simple conversation, but over time it seeps into your spirit. If you listen too long, you start to mirror it without realizing. Instead of being grateful for what you still have, you begin to focus on what's missing. Instead of enjoying the present, you start worrying about everything that could go wrong. This mindset not only robs you of joy, but it can also affect your health. Stress, bitterness, and dissatisfaction weaken the body as much as they weigh down the soul. And in old age, both are too precious to risk. What makes complainers so dangerous is not just their words, but their refusal to see solutions. They live in problems, not possibilities. If something breaks, instead of fixing it, they dwell on the inconvenience. If life takes an unexpected turn, instead of adapting, they talk endlessly about how unfair it is. Their voices are filled with hopelessness, and when you are around them long enough, their hopelessness begins to sound like truth. This is especially harmful when your years ahead are fewer than the years behind you. You cannot afford to live what remains in despair, listening to echoes of dissatisfaction from people who refuse to choose joy. In contrast, joy in old age is not about perfection, it is about perspective. Complaining blocks perspective because it focuses on the empty half of the glass while ignoring the water that's still there. Gratitude, on the other hand, magnifies blessings. When you are surrounded by people who complain, gratitude becomes harder to practice because negativity is contagious. Protecting yourself from complainers is not about ignoring life's struggles, but about choosing to focus on what still gives you strength and meaning. The truth is that everyone has reasons to complain. No one's life is free of challenges, setbacks, or losses. But those who rise above it understand that complaining solves nothing. It only adds more weight to what is already heavy. By avoiding complainers, you allow yourself to be in the company of people who look for light even in the darkness, people who find reasons to laugh even in difficulty, and people who remind you that life, no matter how imperfect, is still worth living. Dream killers are some of the most dangerous people to keep close, especially as you grow older. They are the ones who look at your life and decide without hesitation that your time has passed. They speak words that cut deep, not because they are true, but because they are spoken with such certainty that you start to believe them. They tell you that it's too late to start over, too late to chase something new, too late to find love, too late to explore the world, too late to learn, too late to live with passion. These voices are not just discouraging, they are destructive because they attempt to place an expiration date on your potential. And if you accept their words, you rob yourself of the most precious gift you still have, the ability to live fully. The danger of dream killers lies in their subtlety. They don't always shout or argue. Sometimes they speak with concern, cloaking their discouragement in phrases like "I'm just being realistic," or "I don't want to see you get hurt." On the surface, it may sound like they care, but the effect is the same. Their words shrink your imagination and limit your possibilities. In old age, when your body may already face limits, the last thing you need is someone adding limits to your mind and spirit. The body slows down naturally, but the spirit has no expiration date unless you let others convince you it does. Dream killers often project their own regrets onto you. They may have given up on their own goals, abandoned their own ambitions, or settled for less than they wanted. Instead of dealing with their disappointment, they try to convince others to stop trying as well. It's easier for them to say you can't than to confront the fact that they didn't. In this way, dream killers are not just harming you. They are attempting to validate their own failures by keeping you from rising higher. But your journey is not theirs, and your limits are not theirs to decide. In your later years, the pursuit of dreams doesn't always mean chasing massive achievements. It may mean traveling to places you've never seen, picking up a hobby you always wanted to try, writing your story, strengthening your faith, or simply daring to live with more freedom than you did before. Each of these requires courage, and courage is exactly what dream killers try to take away from you. They want you to stay still, play small, and quietly accept that your best days are behind you. The truth is, your best days are the ones you decide to make the best, no matter your age. Surrounding yourself with encouragers instead of dream killers makes all the difference. Encouragers remind you that as long as you are breathing, there is still purpose left in your days. They push you to see opportunities instead of obstacles, to believe in possibilities instead of impossibilities, and to live with fire instead of fear. Protecting yourself from dream killers is protecting your right to live fully until your very last breath. Imagine this: you've worked your whole life. You've survived struggles. You've carried responsibilities. And now, as the years slow down, all you really want is peace, joy, and freedom. But what if I told you that the very people you allow around you in old age could either protect that peace or poison it? What if I told you there are 5 types of people who can quietly steal your happiness, your energy, and even your will to keep living with purpose? In the end, growing older isn't about the number of candles on the cake. It's about the quality of the people you let sit at your table. Protect your peace, guard your joy, and surround yourself only with those who bring light to your life, because in your final chapters, the company you keep will shape the story you leave behind.